Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendes. Hope you're all well. This is the big match preview as we gear up for Saturday's biggest game in the club's history as we take on Wrexham on Saturday. And, of course, look back at the 2-2 draw with Barnsley, plus discuss everything in between on what I'm sure will be another very busy show this evening. Joining me to look back at that game, and we've got to remember, we're literally 2 days away, or 2 days past, chucking away a 2-1 lead in the last 5 seconds, and no one's even thought about it today, but we will look back at that game. Joining me to do that first up, top right, Sue Gallop. How you doing, Sue?
All good, thanks, Lou. Good to be back.
Good to have you back. Nothing's changed since you left. We're still something crazy goes on every 20 minutes with us. Don't worry. And also on the bottom of the screen there is Lewis Cat. How you doing, Lou?
I'm all right, mate. Just so honoured to be on this historic podcast that we've got ahead of this weekend's historic fixture. You know, I'm just it's going to be one of those we were there moments that me, Sue, and you will be telling everyone for the rest of our lives. I think.
I mean, as far as it goes for me, it's 2019 playoff final there, 1998 playoff final there, 8-0 win at Stevenage there, Wrexham at home is probably my new best game ever. I'm really, really excited for this. Just on the off chance I might be able to buy one of those half and half scarves before they sell out. So on this evening's show then, we have got to look back at the Barnsley game. We'll be doing that shortly. We'll hear the goals. We'll react to that game. We'll discuss all the hoo-ha that's been going on around the Wrexham game. We will look ahead to the Wrexham game. Delighted to say that we're joined by someone from the Fearless in Devotion pod. Andy Gilpin is going to be joining us later on to tell us all about Wrexham and their story and whatnot. And then, of course, we'll look ahead to the game from a Charlton point of view, hearing from the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones. Evening to everyone who's joining us in the chat as well. Sam is straight in there saying good evening. Talk about the game against Barnsley, which is the right thing to do because that's what we'll be doing soon. Andrew's in there. Adam's saying good evening. Just a message say I love the pod. Cheers, mate. Gary's in there. Chris is in there. 76 Rufus. Joseph, Bernie, John, Martin, Dan. There's those of you in there. Give us your thoughts on Tuesday's 2-2 draw with Barnsley, which very nearly was a 2-1 win, which would have been a bit of a smash and grab, if we're being brutally honest. But in the end, we managed to smash, grab, and then drop it. All in the space of about 90 seconds. Let us know your thoughts on that. Let us know your thoughts on what we're all going to be talking about for the next 20 minutes after that, which is the scarves and the excitement around the game against Wrexham. And give us your thoughts on the actual team selection, that sort of stuff, ahead of Saturday's game against the Red Dragons. Right, before we go any further, 2-2 draw with Barnsley on Tuesday evening. We were a goal down at half-time. We were a goal down still with 13 minutes left to go, but a Berry strike on 77 and then another one in added time meant we thought we were getting away with a 2-1 win, but that isn't quite how things turned out. Let's have a quick listen back to the goals from Charlton TV. Peter Shirtliff was alongside Terry Smith.
Again, O'Keefe back inside to Humphreys. Humphreys looks to take the shot away, does. Mannion saves, but the follow-up from Keeler Dunn opens the scoring for Barnsley. And it's only in the last 4 or 5 minutes that Barnsley have threatened, but that threat has culminated in them taking the lead here on 33 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, Charlton are causing their own problems, I think, in terms of they're not winning duels enough.
An instant ball into the box. He's taken his man on. Now the ball's in. Headed beyond the run of Campbell. Godden trying to bring it down. Headed away. Therese Campbell hunting it. Still pinging around the edge of that penalty area. That's a shot coming in. Oh, the finish! Oh, Luke Berry! In amongst the melee on the edge of the area. There's the one man that stayed composed. And the volley from the edge of the area with his right foot beyond Slanina has brought the Addicts back on level terms.
What a strike that
Watson
was.
overlapping on that right. Therese Campbell still with it. Ball into the box.
That's
looking
poor.
for Godden. Punched away. Berry with the return. Oh, it's there! Luke Berry gets his second. Gets Charlton seconds. Slanina with the mistake. And Luke Berry just lifted it into the back of the net where there was a keeper once. And Charlton take a 2-1 lead in added time.
Sent into the near post.
Good header away by Godden, but
get to the ball.
Picked up by Gent. Has to go back to his keeper in the centre circle. Sends it back towards the Charlton penalty area. Header comes in from Cosgrove. It's dropping around the penalty area. Oh, it's drilled home by Roberts, who got to the bouncing ball first, and we're back level.
Disappointing that. Very disappointing.
Look, I think Shirty summed it up quite nicely at the end there. Very disappointing the way things turned out. I mean, you're all going to kill me for this, but I had written out on my phone, Sue, at 2-1, a tweet sort of saying, well, it's funny how we deserved to win on Saturday and didn't, and now we've absolutely nicked this. And just as I was getting ready to press send at full time, the bloody goal went in. I mean, sum up your feelings after that game. The performance overall suggested that if we had won that game, it would have been an absolute robbery. I think I thought we started okay, but it didn't really go anywhere. And then they had a really good spell where they scored the goal. Started the second half, like I felt like we were really hanging on, shots cleared off the line and that. But we got back into it, and then maybe looked a little bit on top for a while. But when you go 2-1 up in added time like that, you got to be seeing it out, and we didn't.
Yeah, I think in those sorts of instances, it's a bit like Charlton of old, isn't it? Like where our defence has been pretty solid on the whole. I think it sounds like Tuesday night they sort of went missing a little bit for those 2 goals, and I think obviously with Lloydie still being out, that's a massive miss. And it's hard to think that one player can make that much difference in that back line, but it shows what a leader is when he's not there. And I think it seems like that I mean, I'm reading the comments, a couple of people have blamed Mannion, but I think again we've said it on the show before, if the defence are doing what they should be doing, then it shouldn't need Will. I know Will's that last sort of line of defence, but we can't put it all on Will for the goals that we're conceding. I don't feel he can only be as good as what's in front of him. But I think it's disappointing because although it sounds like it was such a sort of quite a drab game, when you go 2-1 up that near the end of the game, you kind of think, well, okay, especially because how much better we've been at times this season, particularly again. I mean, I wasn't there Saturday, but it sounded like we played really, really well. And it's hard to then think, like, well, what's happened between Saturday and Tuesday? Because the level of opposition is fairly similar. We're all up there and around about the same area in the league. So it's just hard to get your head around. But again, and I've seen in the chat, is I get some of us possibly would have been happy with a point before that game. I think it's just the nature of that conceding that goal so late that's been the most disappointing aspect of it.
Yeah, it's that, and I'd suggest, mate, that the performance overall. Nathan Jones was talking about how we felt we hardly won a header all night. Like I say, other than maybe the first 15 minutes, where I thought there was a couple of times we won the ball up high. It led to that chance for Lee Byrne early on, Lou, but over that, it just didn't feel. It didn't feel like a particularly fluid display, And after Saturday, we were really hoping that was going to be something to build upon, and it wasn't. I mean, we talk about the goals we conceded. So yeah, as Sue mentioned there, Mannion, he's got a bit of heat for the first goal, and I think rightly so. He should be doing better with that, but he's not the only one. I think Terry Taylor and Alan Campbell let the geezer have a pop from range. There's always question marks about if a defender could react quicker as well when the keeper does parry it out. Lou, I mean, and obviously the second one, again, it was I think it was Berry who lost his header. A few people have looked at Gillespie for the second goal, but I mean he had 2 men, and I think that was quite harsh on him. Really, it just sort of felt like they're just sort of in that panic at the end, got knocked out of shape, and there's no one back there helping Gillespie, and he had to mark 2 on the edge of the box. It was just goals that we can't. At times this season we wouldn't have conceded. And I don't know how much of that comes down to the fact that Lloyd's not playing at the moment, but I think he's certainly going to be a big miss.
Yeah, he is, and also we're forgetting about Kane as well, with Ramsey on that right hand side. I mean, for me, the start of the season probably played up to so far. I'd say that Ramsey and Lloyd Jones have been our best two players, really. Like if you were picking your player of the year now, you'd be putting those two first and second, and it probably could be in any order. So to be without both of those players is really tough, and we haven't had a huge amount of rotation at the back. Not that it's not been forced anyway. So you've had that relationship built up with Mitchell and with Jones, where I think we've seen some of our better defensive displays because of the understanding those two have when they play together. I think they complement each other in different ways. Like what Mitchell does well is more like he's not really great with the ball and stuff like that, but he's just a real brute that does the no nonsense defending, where Lloyd's a little bit more composed and can come out with the ball at his feet and can pick out a pass and look a bit more comfortable on the ball. Likewise with Gillespie, like he's had a bit of unfair stick, and I think some of that is a hangover from last season's performances not being that great. I've actually been fairly impressed with him in the first section of the season. He did have a little bit of a dip where he found himself out of the side, but we're definitely seeing a better Gillespie than we were last season. But ultimately, you take your two best performers out of your side, then you are going to see you're going to see differences. And Reg playing in that position, I think he did okay on Saturday when he came on, but I don't really fancy him there, to be honest. I think where we're lacking width going forward, we rely a lot on Ramsey and on Edwards or Thierry to get forward and create chances, and I don't think we see a lot of that out of Reg. So that's another area that's been nullified, really. So it's ultimately, I would have taken a point before, because Barnsley's a tough place to go. We've had some really awful displays up there of late, and I think I wasn't expecting to come away with much. It just feels like when you come that close to it, you should be shutting up shop and taking away the points. And maybe there is just a little bit of that. I don't know, just that game management that we've been really good at the start of the season. You've lost a few of those players that have contributed to that, and maybe that we're seeing that there's the weakness there. But we've got to be able to bounce back from these things. It's not the end of the world. It is a point on the road. We were way off of our best, and we found ourselves 1-0 down. We, by some miracle, Luke Berry shaped miracle, found ourselves 2-1 up with seconds to play, and we just couldn't close it out, which is really frustrating. But overall, it's not the worst result in the world. But I think when you come that close to taking home the 3 points, especially after Saturday where we should have won, you're looking at 2 points from 2 games as opposed to what should have been 6. And that can be a big difference between whether you make the top 6 or you don't. And I think we'll see that as 4 points drops over the last 2 games for sure.
Looking at a few of the comments that are coming, Rustos said he thought Gillespie was awful. I thought Small looked quality again when he came on, really fired them up. Like to see him start Saturday. To Mitchell, centre back, Reg right back. Yeah, I thought Small did do quite well when he came on. It's a bit of energy, which we know he has. That there's other parts of his game which I've banged on about previously, but Spam says the lack of creativity in the midfield is terrible. Most teams have worked us out defensively. Spam also saying, despite Berry's outstanding double really showing his technical prowess, we were awful. We have a lot of issues. We only seem to play well against the big teams. Kessler said he would have taken a draw before the game, but gutted that we didn't see it out. Yeah, Mark pointing out that Leeburn probably scores that chance he had in the first minute if he's fully fit, and I said that after the chances he missed on Saturday as well. Hopefully it won't take him too long to get up to speed, but there is probably a little bit of leeway there because of that one. Tim said he thought that we nicked a point and we were awful for it. If it wasn't for Berry, would have left with nothing. And then Sam says Berry's our most frustrating player. 2 great goals, but he doesn't win the header that leads to the Barnsley equaliser. That was one thing that sort of I was chuckling to myself out after Tuesday, because the first one in particular, but both of those were quality finishes from Luke Berry. And then after that, you've got quite loads of people everywhere saying, "Oh, why isn't he starting? Why isn't he starting?" It's because other than goals, he doesn't don't feel like he does enough. Like no one in the midfield overall does enough for them to say they're undroppable. Especially maybe in the slightly further forward midfield roles. And then Berry has got the quality to pop up with goals, but then it feels like that's almost like a couple of flashes of brilliance in games where he's been quiet, and I feel like that's been the case for him and a lot of midfielders so far this season. See?
Yeah, I think the only argument I have to having Berry in the side, I used to love watching him play at Luton anyway, but I think he has got that that attacking mindset, and he does. He's got that experience as well that he brings to the squad. Which when you look at it, we are quite a young squad, and I think you need players like Luke in there just to give to do what he does when he scores these amazing goals, but also to sort of keep that sort of older level head on when things get a bit rough. But I see what you're saying, like, completely about his all-round game. But again, I don't know how. I know he's played in all of the leagues, but how easy is it to go from playing in the Prem to then drop back down to League One and get back into that League One mindset? I'd always sort of argue that point, because as we know, on the whole, Premier League football is a lot prettier and League One football is a bit more rough and tumble. So I'm wondering whether Luke's still adapting to that side of playing again.
But I guess and he did show those 2 moments of quality, which is more than some that we've seen so far in the midfield this season. And they were, I mean, the first goal I thought was one of the best sort of technical finishes we've seen in a long time, and even the second one, I mean, the keeper's had an absolute howler there, coming out and punching it and just getting tangled up in his own defence. Something, it feels like the sort of thing one of our keepers would have done over the years. But that was a very, very good finish. And yeah, I mean, John said he thought we were very lucky to get the draw, but Berry showed his worth. Dan said he thought that a draw flattered us on Tuesday. Leo, let's look at a couple of the other players. So, I mean, the midfield of Terry Taylor and Connor Coventry at the base of the box, which is not a phrase I've used very often, but now we're playing this box midfield. I mean, it's something I called for on Sunday show, but did it work?
I think it's difficult. I think they're fairly similar players. I mean, I do think Terry Taylor's a little bit more attacking minded, and he does try and get the ball forward more than Connor Coventry. But I also think Connor gets a lot of stick for not doing that side of his game, but that isn't what he's known for. I think he does the mucky stuff really well. Like, I thought he was absolutely brilliant against Birmingham, and it's because he was doing what he does well, which is just tidying up and supporting the back line. Terry's a little bit more creative. Obviously, we saw how good his set pieces were against Stockport. I wasn't at the game Tuesday, so I don't know if that was reciprocated or not, but I think he's obviously playing himself back in. He's not played football for a really long time, and he's come in and made 2 starts after basically a year out. I think you're not going to see the best of Terry Taylor until he's got himself up to speed, and the only way you're going to get that is by game time. So maybe that relationship between him and Connor is going to build up as the season progresses. But I do still worry a little bit about our midfield overall and how creative is it, because in terms of attacking options, we've obviously got quite a few strikers out at the moment. We're relying heavily on Matty Godden. Miles, of course, you've already mentioned, has just come back from injury. So we're waiting for him to get up to speed, and we're kind of like really pressing for that to happen quickly because we know how dangerous he can be. But there's a responsibility then that falls back on some of those midfielders to try and contribute, which obviously Luke Berry has done, not just Tuesday, but previously as well. I think he's our top scorer at the moment, which is great. Like, we're seeing that side of his game, but some of the other midfielders for me need to contribute more. You know, Karoy is on paper a more attacking minded player, not seeing enough from him in terms of trying to get into the right positions to contribute to goals. And we're obviously not scoring many goals at the moment, which is a bit of an alarming one. And, you know, hopefully, as well, it feels like Nathan's tinkering with the system a little bit. I thought on Saturday when he brought on, we put TC out wide and brought Kaheem Dixon on, and we had a little bit more width in our play. We looked really dangerous. So I'd like to see us go down that route, really, because at the moment, I think we're really struggling to create chances. And I think we've got a striker up there in Matty Godden who's a real poacher and can definitely take those chances when they fall to him. But you've got to give the guy the ball to do that. And we're not doing that enough for me at the moment.
Yeah, he had that one chance in the first half, Godden, which he sort of snatched out a little bit and lifted it over the bar. And I think he was involved in a couple of moments teeing it up. But yeah, just overall, like, it seems like we struggle to get him into games sometimes, because when we do, he scores goals overall. Like, you know, he's not going to score every single chance, otherwise he'd be playing Premier League. But yeah, it would be nice if we could get him a few more opportunities. Stephen saying 2 wins in 8 now. Just need to get a few more wins to keep the pace into the January window. I mean, how many years have we said that in a row? And Martin saying, where's the energy, Preston, and passion gone that was shown from the Birmingham game? It's a tough one, isn't it? So I'm always very wary that we do a show after every single game, so therefore we're reacting to the last game. And you think about it on Saturdays, after Saturday's game, we're very positive, does it mean that the performances have completely dropped off a cliff because the next game is not quite up there? You've got to be careful to say that we're only two games back from a really decent performance, but at the same time, it was frustrating on Tuesday, and it didn't work, as Gary pointed out with the midfield question I asked there. And Austin saying, a lot of negativity from fans considering we narrowly missed out on 2 wins. Winning either would have put us 5th, and I bet it would be a completely different story. And it is very, very tight still in that top half of that table, which is a good thing. I think it shows that no one quite is climbing away apart from Birmingham from the pack at the moment. So we're still in and around where we need to be. Points per game wise, I mean, the graph's not looking great, but it changes after almost every game at this early stage in the season. Which is you have to sort of try and keep an eye on. But I think there are legitimate questions that came out of Tuesday, and that's why people have been a little bit more negative. And it's not just the manager was quite negative at full time. How much of a difference was Nathan not being on the touchline? Do you think that would have made? So obviously with his 1 match ban for the 3 yellow cards, he had to go and sit next to Charlie Mevin. They're probably thinking about doing a half and half scarf at the time.
No comment. So yeah, I think as we've all witnessed, Nathan is very, very visible and vocal on the touchline, and I do feel like him not being down there. Not to say that like Curtis is not able to, but it's a different type, and Nathan does have that quality of like encouragement and that constant like guidance throughout a game. So I feel like that would have made a difference, because again, although you rely on your teammates to maybe point things out to you when you're on that pitch, when you've got the manager bawling at you from the sidelines, right, cover that person or cover that area or whatever it is, sometimes the players lose their way a little bit because he's almost like that linchpin that holds it together. So I always feel like, unless you have the old school sort of scheme that Curbs had when he used to sit up in the director's box with the telephone ringing down to the dugout, I feel like that would have made a big difference. But again, you still got they work, like Nathan often says in his post-match interviews, like they work on these things every single day in training. So you put your faith in your players to carry out the instructions that you've given them, and even at halftime or prior to the game. So you would hope it would make a difference, but I feel like it would.
Excellent stuff. Well, just one more thing I was going to mention. I think we'll probably talk about a little bit more later on when we're discussing team news for Saturday. I thought Karoy struggled a bit on the ball, but it is interesting in that opening. Like I said, I actually thought we started okay, maybe 15 minutes. I can't remember exactly how long, but there was a couple of times he was involved in winning the ball high up the pitch. I was thinking that's why he gets picked quite a lot, because of that energy. But then there was a few times actually on the ball he struggled a little bit. So I imagine that'll be one that people will talk about a little bit later when we start to discuss the team news ahead of Saturday. Now, let's get it over and done with. Actually, no, let me just grab a couple of emails actually before we talk about the bloody scarves. But Ray said he would have settled for a point before and during the game on Tuesday. Sees it as a point gained, but we missed Jones and Ramsey in the defence. For Taylor and Coventry were good, but Alan Campbell and Anderson were poor. No idea why Doherty didn't start. Lee Burn's threatening, but he needs to square the ball more. Says Gordon, not really in it. Sadly, he will score though if you give him chances. That's from Ray. Cheers, Ray, and Jay Baker. It was moaning about the referee from Saturday still, but also says I'm not impressed with Coventry despite what others say. No vision, it's all sideways passes. I was expecting a bit more. There's a couple of emails there. Scott says Alan Campbell hasn't done enough for me at the moment. Is there an option for Doc, Berry, Taylor and Coventry in the box midfield? Well, we may find out Saturday. Like I say, I still think overall we're trying to find the right balance for that midfield, and I don't think we found it yet, no matter how much we try. I mean, sometimes it works in certain games. The high pressing stuff, like against Birmingham with the box midfield, worked really well, but in other games it just hasn't quite clicked. And there's still a little bit of tweaking perhaps to do there. Right, let's as I said, let's get it over and done with. Today, I've been off work this week, so I was enjoying a nice relaxing lunch with my brother and his wife and their new baby. When my phone started buzzing, and it was like, right, hashtag's going crazy, something's going on here. We have gone nearly 20 minutes without something mad happening, so let's see what's going on now. Half and half scarves for Saturday's game with Wrexham at the Valley. So there's been a lot of discussion over the last few weeks about how well tickets are selling. It's been clear to me. Well, yeah, I really struggled to picture like thousands of Charlton fans coming back for this game, as if like we've just drawn Man United in the cup. Like we draw a Premier League team in the cup, then it's a big draw because it's a chance to cause an upset, play a big team, that sort of stuff. So when I've seen that the ticket sales have been going really well for this, which I think is good news. I'm not one of those who's that bothered about where the fans come from. Then yeah, it sort of made me think, yeah, it's probably more people who are interested in the opposition. And yeah, I mean, if ever we needed an answer to that question, then I guess the half and half scarves might be the giveaway for that. Now, again, I'm not going to buy one. I don't think it's going to massively affect me, but a lot of people seem to have found it a bit, I don't know, embarrassing, if that's the right word. Chris says, evening everyone, all looking forward to seeing our little Charlton boys against the big boys of Wrexham. It's our cup final. I've had pelters today from friends at Fulham, Spurs and Arsenal, half and half scarves in the club shop. Lewis, will you be getting one?
No. No, I won't. I think it's annoying because I think the hype around the game is good for the football club. Regardless of what people make of the Wrexham story, you know, people coming into the Valley and watching Charlton play football, regardless of they're playing, is good news. Like, you know, nothing makes me more sad than seeing the Valley, you know, depleted and empty and half full, because when it's full, it generates such a good atmosphere. And obviously through the years, we've been through a real downturn in our fortunes from the Premier League and some difficult years in League One and yo-yoing up to the Championship a couple of times and back down again. And, you know, this new generation of football supporter, when I was a kid, you know, Charlton were in the Premier League and they were followed, you know, heavily, and people at primary schools would be picking Charlton as a team because they were, you know, they were local and you could go and you could watch it and you were watching Premier League football, and that generated a huge amount of supporters that have stuck around, myself included. And it feels like obviously we've dipped off in that because there have been what you would say for a neutral, maybe better options when it comes to watching football. And therefore the next generation of Charlton supporter is probably a little bit depleted. So I'm all for trying to get more people into the stadium and more people into the Valley to see what Charlton's about. I don't think half and half scarves is the right way to do that. I think the right way to do that is sell our product, not Wrexham, our product. You know, Charlton Athletic is a massive football club with a massive history, with one of the best fan bases in the country. You know, one of the only clubs, probably the only club that's ever got itself back to its stadium. Like, we've done some unbelievable things in our history. I don't think acknowledging a Hollywood purchase of a non-league club as some kind of cup final is the right thing to do. I think it will be great because it will generate some revenue for the football club and people will come and watch, and hopefully some of these 20,000 odd people that come and watch us are coming to watch Charlton and will stick around and will come back. We won't see the same attendance for the following week. You know, that's not going to happen, and people surely accept that's the case. But if it does stick an extra 2,500-3,000 on, and then that 2,500-3,000 becomes another 4, another 5, and if we go on a good run and we can get consistent attendances heading towards just below the 20 mark in League One, I think that's a really good achievement. Ultimately, I think we've given Wrexham a little bit too much respect. I mean, they've still got to come into this league and compete. You know, we're not handing them wins here and handing them respect because they're owned by Hollywood owners. We need to, you know, they should be showing us some respect for the achievements that we've made as a football club over the years, and it shouldn't just all be one way. And half and half scarves for me, I don't like them regardless. So the fact we're doing them is a little bit disappointing. I think there's a better way to market this game than doing this and appealing to a neutral. I think ultimately, we're Charlton, we're a big club in our own right, and that's the product we should be selling, not somebody else's.
Yeah, when I saw that, I did think maybe we should have just gone the whole hog and just put Wrexham scarves and shirts in the club shop, because I mean that's one step away from it, and it's the production of this scarf is probably an admission of an uneasy truth, is that Wrexham are a bigger draw than us at the moment, shown by the tickets. Because I mean, if these were Charlton fans coming back for a big game, they would have been there. Some of them would have been there for the Birmingham game as well. So again, like I'm not someone who's against the Wrexham story as well. Like a lot of I followed Bromley when they were in non-league, and when Bromley beat them in the trophy, the film guy, the movie star guys were really, everyone at Bromley said they were really, really gracious, and they took it really well. And you can see that they've taken a good historic club and they've pumped money into it. And that's as sad as it is. That's the dream. We wish we could get that sort of level of sponsorship and that sort of level of interest. But it is. Like I say, it's just admitting the embarrassing truth that this is where we are at the moment, and we've got to ride on the coattails of Wrexham. Dean says, how embarrassing that the club are selling half and half scarves on Saturday. Who would have come up with this idea, and what sort of fan would buy one? And again, I mean, if we're being, to use that horrible phrase that the Premier League clubs are using, like those sort of scarves aren't aimed at us legacy fans. Those people who've been around for a long time will always support the club, and it is aimed at the sort of tourists. And so it's whether the amount of money we're going to make from the scarves is worth the sort of damage to our reputation that we've got amongst our own fans for it. So Chris is saying it's embarrassing. If we were playing Real Madrid, then half and half would be okay, but it's Wrexham. I mean, the last time I remember seeing the half and half down at the Valley was when we played Cray Valley in the FA Cup, but it made more sense then, if you understand what I see. I mean, is that Ollie saying that anyone who needs celebrities to get themselves into football will never be proper fans? Ian saying all the London Premier League teams are playing on Sunday because of the match. That's probably why the extra crowd. But if we're being realistic, it's because we're playing Wrexham. Rostos says it's very embarrassing. Mark says he's seen half and half scarves at Arsenal Spurs game. Well, to be fair, Mark, they're probably aimed at you because they're aimed at people who are there for an occasion and not because they've supported the team. Dean says it's Wrexham. Jesus, Shiny Phil saying, oh my God, half and half scarves. That's horrible. Austin says, we're a family club. The scarves are aimed at kids coming for a big game. I mean, again, I don't have Disney, so I've never watched the show, Sue. So, I mean, will there be kids who watch that show and will be excited by the fact that Charlton, their local team, are playing Wrexham, and then it may buy that scarf, but because they saw Charlton play against Wrexham, it'd be like, Is there anything in that? I'm really clutching here to understand who it's aimed at. To in any way link it to something Charlton related here.
Yeah, I think I have watched the show, and I actually do. I'm probably in a minority here, but I am actually I've got big admiration for the way that Ryan and Rob have done things at Wrexham, in terms of really tapping into the local community. I went to Wrexham, 30 years ago, and then I went again last season, and the difference is astounding. The positivity around the area is fantastic. I do feel like kids will probably want the scarf because, again, a lot of the social media stuff around Rob and Ryan being owners of a football club, fans of their TV stuff, their films, whatever it is. I think you were right in what you were saying, is potentially going to get quite a lot of tourists coming Saturday. If they're in London for a holiday or a break and they want to catch Rob and Ryan in London, then no better place to come to the Valley. That's even if they're going to be in attendance. But I think this sort of idea, and again, I'm not a fan of half and half scarves. I've never bought one. I never will. Whether Charlton are at Wembley or England are playing in the World Cup final, I will not buy one. But I can understand slightly why the club have done it, in that, you know what, this potentially could be our biggest attendance of the season if we don't, like, I think it'll be different if we start to get into the playoffs looking like we might get promoted, but at this moment in time I feel like this will be our highest attendance. So, bluntly, let's milk it for all it's worth. It might not be the Charlton way, but more money is better than
Yeah, but
none.
I mean,
It's-
milking it in terms of the amount of tickets we've sold, definitely, because like I say, there will be. There's no two way around it. I mean, Gary's put how many Wrexham are going to be our end. I'd suggest quite a few, but I'd put it as almost Wrexham / neutral. I mean, there will be people just thinking they're going to see Rob. What's his? I'm terrible. By the way, Richard Call has been threatening. Richard Call has been threatening to tweet all week the conversation we had the other day that I wouldn't recognise Rob McElhenney if he was sat next to me. The other one I would recognise, but that's not. Obviously, I know they're really famous. That's not a slight on them. It's more of a slight on me. I don't really watch films and stuff, but I just watch football and EastEnders. But that's there, yeah. If people are coming to see that, then it's I feel like we're in another world. Sam said it's crazy that we've sold over 22,000 tickets because of Wrexham's owners, who probably won't be attending. The half and half scarves are a joke. Dean says they need to take them off the shelves. Even mates who support other clubs are embarrassed for us, and that is the question you've had to ask yourself: is the amount of money we're going to pull in for those scarves, is it worth it for the upset it's caused fans? It's probably not. It's probably not much, but I don't know. Like I say, ticket sales will be worth it because the prices were more expensive, and we've sold a lot of them. I think some people are saying it might be a sellout. I think I've seen people say. I've been told actually to mention get there early because there will be queues for certain things, and presumably those scarves will sell out quite quickly. So make sure you get there nice and early to get one. Right, let's have a break. When we come back, we're going to speak to the first man who I know will be buying a scarf on Saturday. That's Andy from the Fearless in Devotion podcast. We'll be back in a few moments' time.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the River. See you soon.
There you go. Don't waste your money on scarves. Buy beer from Joe and Steel from PSF Steel. That's where you really want to be spending your money this weekend. Just before we bring in Andy, just a quick message from Adele saying my husband Ray is a lifelong Charlton fan, listens to the show as well. It's his birthday on Saturday, 26th, so he'll be making his journey down from Lincolnshire to see his beloved team. Please give him a mention on your show. Loving wishes from his wife and friends. Happy birthday, Ray. Hope you enjoy Saturday. Hopefully Adele will buy you a nice scarf. Right, let's look ahead to the game with Wrexham. Delighted to say that Andy is going to join us now from the Fearless in Devotion podcast. Good evening, Andy. How you doing, my friend?
Hi guys, how are you? Good to see your club got the memo about the scarf I wanted. They put a good order in there.
Have you put your pre-order in already, mate? Because I know this is clearly a massive game for everyone involved.
You know what? It is. This is the game I was really sort of looking forward to. Look, we all know we spent way too long in non-league, 15 years, and there's only so many times you can go to Ebbsfleet. I'm going to be honest. There's only so many times you can go to Ebbsfleet and lose at Ebbsfleet, and we did that way too many times. So when you start moving up the table, you start sort of thinking about the grounds you'd like to visit and the places you've not been to before, and Charlton was one. I actually live in London. I live in West London. So there's 2 grounds in London I've never done. I've never done Palace and I've never done Charlton. And I'm really, really looking forward to knocking off the Valley on Saturday.
Yeah, I wouldn't waste your time ticking off the other one. It's an absolute dump. The story of Wrexham is clearly has been told many times, but I mean, just tell us a little bit about it, what the ride has been like as a supporter. Because I mean, overall, I mean, if we take away the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, as you mentioned, you had to play Ebbsfleet every week. You know, that's not for something. I remember Bromley beating Wrexham more than once in the National League, which just seems bizarre. You know, a club the size of Wrexham. To have been that far in the doldrums, so to get back into what feels like where you belong must have been quite the journey. Despite the fact people will try and paint it as some sort of fairy tale, and I don't think it's quite that, but it's certainly been a fascinating one, and with what feels like from the outside looking in quite good people who've taken you on that journey.
I think there's two levels to it. You can sort of think about the Hollywood razzmatazz and, Ryan's wearing a Wrexham cap, and suddenly there's a whole raft of interest in that piece of merchandise, something he says that on a film, or having Paul Mullin in Deadpool 3. There's that level to it. But the more granular level is the level I'm really interested in. And it's, how do these guys use their influence to take a football club forward? And this club needed every part of it revamping. Now, the racecourse, Sue, you say you've been there. It's a lovely old ground, but it's falling apart. It was the same on the pitch. Now, it was fan-zoned, and I can't say fairer about what they did. They never took a wage for it. There's a lot of heroes there who kept the club going. But really and truly, it was a road to nowhere, because every time we put a good team together, some sort of bad luck really derailed us. Now, we lost a few managers just when we were in the playoffs. Sam Ricketts went to Shrewsbury. We lost Dean Keats to Walsall, and that sort of derailed us. I mean, one season, our top scorer got bitten by a poisonous spider. The season after, our new star striker got a tropical disease. And you're sort of thinking, right, what other bad luck do we need? And it seemed like we were sort of storing all that bad luck to get Ryan and Robin. Now, like you guys, like when you first hear it, you think, well, that's a publicity stunt. And I thought that as well. They were quite open about the documentary, saying, look, this is why we're doing it. We're doing it because of documentary. But I was always sort of looking what they were doing behind the scenes, and had they bought a club to make a documentary, or had they bought a club to actually make, push it forward and sort of revamp it at every level? And once they appointed Phil Parkinson as manager, I knew that they're actually in it for the club rather than the documentary. Because to be honest, you guys know Phil Parkinson's a lovely fella, but he ain't box office, is he? So, if you love 352 and you think that's going to get the Americans interested, that's one thing. But now I was thinking maybe they might go for a really high profile manager. I don't know, like a Roy Keane, or someone to really sort of push that sort of narrative and that sort of documentary feel. But they didn't. They went for Parkinson. Behind the scenes, they go for experienced football professionals. I think Les Reed is involved quite heavily. Who again, I think you guys will know. Can I just say thank you so much for George Dobson, by the way. Never mind half and half scarves. That's the present that you really gave us. Thank you to a lesser extent for Owen O'Connell.
I'm glad you said that, but I was going to say no. You can't say thank you for George Dobson, because I quite like him back. Sue, have you got any questions?
Yeah, well, actually, I was just trying to, because we have got quite a few Charlton connections. Really, we've also got Elliot, haven't we?
Elliot Lee, yeah.
But also, I think I'm interested to really get a real better understanding of Parky, because obviously he was our manager, and I loved him. He's a lovely guy. I think the sort of type of football we were playing wasn't attractive, and I think I'm trying to think now if you can give us some sort of perspective on how different it is now that you've got Parky as manager in terms of the way you play, because you've got some absolutely unreal players. How do you feel like Parky is getting the best out of that squad?
Oh, wow, you've come in with a Paxman there. Right, okay. When Parky first took over, if he'd have left after 4 months, we'd have been happy, because he was regimented with the 3-5-2, and we didn't have the players to play it. He came in right before the end of the transfer window. He couldn't bring his own people in. He didn't have a target man, but he played it anyway. And it was painful to watch. We were getting turned over. We were 1-0 behind at Marine. And I think if we hadn't equalised in the last minute, the calls would have been so much, he would have maybe gone, because that's how much the fans were against him. Right. He has had 4 or 5 transfer windows, and he's completely revamped the team and our opinion of him. And I think our opinion of him also changed for the documentary, because we could see what he was doing. You don't often get a glimpse into the dressing room and the sort of inner echelons of a football club, but we did. And I think we liked Parky a hell of a lot more after that. So that was a good sort of cleanser for him as well. I think the other thing is Phil Parkinson's a pragmatist. He will do what he needs to do to get you out of a league. So, for example, in non-league, we needed big, experienced professionals, leaders. He brought those in Ben Tozer and Ollie Palmer. He got us out of that league. In League 2, he needed a bit more creativity and a bit more pace. He brought that in, very solid. We also had experience with James McLean coming in, and he managed to get us out of that league. Now, he's revamped that again this season. He sort of knows in League 1 we need more ball-playing centre-halves, and that's not something we really had. And he's sort of revamped that again. So Tom O'Connor will play on the left. He's a midfielder. Dan Scar's a little bit of a throwback, but you've got Owen O'Connor, who he can play. You know he can play. He lapses concentration every now and again. But behind him, he's brought in young players as well, the likes of Lewis Brunt, who they got from Leicester City. We got Mo Fowl in from West Brom. We got Max Cleworth has come through our youth team and is probably our biggest saleable asset. He's fantastic. I think the only area we haven't really done well is up front. So if there's any question marks about Phil Parkinson and what he can do, and I think we've massively overachieved so far this season, I think up front is where the questions really are.
Hi, Andy. Yeah, you touched on it there. Some of the recruitment's been really, really good under Parky. I've been a big fan of some of the players you've brought in, but I don't think I'm as big a fan of any as I am of George Dobson.
Yeah,
you mentioned already. You want to thank us for having him. He's great, isn't he? How are you finding him so far? How's he settling into life in Wales? And what? Well, do you want to make him feel any worse that he doesn't play for Charlton? Because I already feel pretty awful about it.
Yeah, well, the first couple of minutes I've seen him, I was like, why is he running like that? He looked like he was just about to run in a circle. Like he's got such a weird sort of running gait. And I thought, oh my God, I'm not sure about him. But I tell you what, the way the guy has a football brain and can see what's happening and know when he needs to cajole someone, when he needs to stay back, when he can go forward. I mean, that sort of leading by example is exactly what that midfield needed. And as I sort of said earlier, Parky sort of fits or gets the players in to get you out of that league. Well, he knows that George Dobson is League One ready. He knows he's a leader without having to be the captain. He's not that vocal, but he leads by example. And I think other players sort of buy into that. And then what they do is they buy into his work ethic. They see him chasing down everything and think, right, I can't slack. And it's sort of changed Elliot Lee's game a little bit. Now, I actually think Elliot Lee's probably found his level in League One. In non-league, he was our biggest attacking outlet. And what you used to do is give the ball to Elliot, and Elliot would make something happen. Where he'd go past someone, or a clever pass, or a shot. Now, Elliot's not doing that as much in League One, because I think he's a little bit more regimented in the midfield three. I think Parky has sort of realised that we need to be very industrious and very tight and very compact. And I don't think we'll have a lot of the ball on Saturday. But what we will do is hunt in packs. We'll make sure that we try and frustrate you and block every sort of alley you might try and play down. And that coupled with how good we are at set pieces may be enough for us to I don't know. I mean, I'm always a pragmatist away from home. I'd like a draw.
Excellent. Well, I'd accept. Well, that would go very nicely with the half and half scarves, actually, if we drew the game.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, one each.
Lovely stuff. Andy, massive thanks for your time this evening. I hope you enjoy your first trip to the Valley up until about 3:01 on Saturday, and then you can go and check out Selhurst Park.
At least my neck will be warm.
Yeah, it certainly will. Andy, from the Fearless in Devotion pod, cheers for your time, my friend. And best of luck for the rest of the season and all that jazz. There we go. That's Andy joining us to let us know a little bit about Phil Parkinson's side. It'd be interesting to see what sort of reaction Parky gets, purely because I feel like a reasonable percentage of the crowd won't remember him from when he was time. But I liked Parky when he was our boss. It just sort of petered out a little bit, and obviously what came after him was one of the happiest times I've had supporting Charlton when Powley took over. But yeah, Parky was a good bloke, and I'm glad to see that he's doing well. Right, let's hear from our current manager. It's not the same as like referring to your wife as your current wife, is it? But it does sort of feel like that a little bit with the way things have gone as a Charlton manager over the years. Nathan Jones, chance to look ahead to Saturday's game with Wrexham. Starts off with the team news. This is Nathan speaking to James at the club earlier on today.
First of all, coming out of Tuesday, it was the first start of the season for Miles Lieber. How did he come through the game?
Yeah, he came through it. Obviously, he's not at the level he wants to be at yet. Obviously, he showed flashes of real quality, which we know he got, and it's about getting enough minutes into him so that he gets back to where he was before the injury. As I said, we've had to be very careful with him, but he's showed what a value he is to the squad in the two sort of games that he's played, the two appearances he's played, and look, we're delighted that he's on that road now to being back where he was.
In terms of team news, are there any fresh injury concerns ahead of the weekend?
Well, no, we hope not. Obviously, a lot can happen from now on Saturday, but obviously just dusting them down from a journey and a tough match on Tuesday, coming off the back of Saturday, and then going into another game. So no, look, we're looking forward to the game, and hopefully no new injury worries.
Kane Ramsey was forced off last weekend. Is there any update on the nature of his injury?
Look, it's not a good injury. Well, no injury is good injury, but it's not a real positive news really in terms of things with the knee. So we're just waiting for a bit of diagnosis in terms of timescales and stuff. But it's not an easy injury. It's not one that's going to be back in weeks. So that's a blow for the boy firstly, but also for us because he's been in such good form.
Wrexham visit the Valley on Saturday. What sort of challenge will they pose?
Another very tough League One challenge. We've different games week in, week out, and this is another game. If we take it just on the purely the teams versus teams, very well drilled team that's been together a long time. Obviously, a very experienced manager and a group of players that have wanted to achieve something and are achieving things in terms of year in year out. So it's a very very difficult game, but every game at League One is a different but tough challenge.
And past 22,000 tickets this morning, how much are you looking forward to Saturday's atmosphere?
Yeah, look, it's the games you want to be. We want to be playing in front of 22, 23, 24 every single week. That's what we want. We've asked the crowd to back us. We've asked the crowd to be part of the journey with us. And again, obviously, I know that Wrexham will bring a good following. There'll be a lot of interest in the game because of the two teams. And we're really looking forward to another wonderful game.
Unbeaten in 3 games now against some top opposition. What have you made of that form and how do we build on it?
Well, we've had to bounce back from a tough, we were excellent right up until we had a real tough spell, and the Bristol Rovers game was probably a bit of a watershed for us in terms of the level of performance we didn't want to go back to. And then there were elements of that on Tuesday night, but we managed to create enough to have got something out of it, and are disappointed not to have won it in the end, not because we deserved to, but because when you take the lead in the 93rd minute, you expect to see the game out. But look, that's football. But again, we've bounced back because we've not continued that losing run, and as you said, against some tough opposition, 3 sides after that are expected to be up there, and they'll have that expectation themselves. So it shows that 1, we've got a lot of character. 2, we've got a lot of quality, and there's a lot of steel within the squad.
There you go. That's Nathan looking ahead to Saturday's game with Wrexham. Team news, obviously, in their bad news about Kane Ramsey. So not a specific number on it, which he's unlikely to put. But it sounds like a months rather than weeks from what he was saying, if we're being honest, which is awful news because he's been very good this season. Shiny feels so gutted that Ramsey is out for so long. What a miss he's going to be. Even more important, we get our other injuries back as soon as possible. Yeah, and Russell saying Kanu and Jones out for weeks, and Ike hopefully back Saturday. We don't know that for certain. One very rare little occasion we've got for you now, but we actually have a little bit of an exclusive because Ben bumped into Lloyd Jones in Sainsbury's this afternoon. So this is I need to send him round just to see where the players are shopping. So Lloyd had come out of his brace today, so it sounded like it was better than they were thinking, and he gave a number of weeks, which wasn't anywhere near as bad as I was fearing. Which is like, based on what he said today, I'd be shocked if he's not back within a month, if not less, which is better than it could have been. But yeah, Ramsey sounds like it's going to be a long time, and he's going to be a huge miss for us, Sue.
Yeah, I'm hoping no one could lip read when Nath said that in his interview, because I did say a naughty word. But just gutting, absolutely gutting that it's not. It sounds like it's not weeks, and it's sad for him as well, because obviously he spent a little bit of time out of the team last season with an injury, and I think we've seen this season, we've seen the player that we kind of bought, if that makes sense. Like last season, it was difficult because he only came in for a couple of games and then he got injured. So I think this season has just been a revelation, really, and it's sad for him and it's sad for us, because we don't look as comfortable without him in the squad, and the team. Sorry. So yeah, that is really gutted, really gutting.
Changes for Saturday, Lou. So I mean, we talk about formation. You can talk about who's going to fill the back four or back five, or however we're going to play it. Are we going to stick with a box midfield? If we are, what's going to be the right midfield to play in that game? I mean, and sort of, I guess, along with that, who comes in up front as well? If there needs to be any changes up there or not? Is Miles fit enough to start another full game after playing Tuesday? There's a lot of slightly tricky ones for Nathan to decide on Saturday. I mean, I'll dive straight in with, Rustos is about to say no one's even mentioned Gas. I mean, yeah, he's potentially back. I don't think he comes straight back in for me, unless Miles can't start. So I don't even know if he's fit enough for Saturday yet, because Nathan doesn't give much away. Scott says Leeburn or Godden and TC up top. But I want to ask you about the midfield. So I mentioned Corey Anderson. His energy gets him in the side. Does his ability on the ball at the moment keep him in the side? I mean, where'd you go with that? Do you make changes there? Does Alan Campbell start again? Does he do enough to start again? Where'd you go in the midfield?
For me, I don't think Alan Campbell's done enough for me so far. I think the issue with Campbell is, and a lot of our midfielders, they're all very similar players. Like they all have very similar attributes, and it just makes us really one-dimensional in the middle. But I think the variety that you can find in the likes of Luke Berry, Karoy, and people like that, you need to try and add a little bit more to your midfield to give it a little bit more effectivity. Basically, like if you're coming out from playing through your midfield and you get a bit of the ball, you want somebody to be passing the ball forward, creating stuff. And as I said earlier, like trying to create chances or score chances. Berry has to start for me, I think. Like I know maybe he didn't do great with the defending on Tuesday night with the goal at the end, but I mean he's got us in games so many times, and I think that he just has quite an experienced head on his shoulders. So I'd like to see Berry come back in, and I'd probably see Doc come back in for Karoy, and stick with Taylor, because I think he brings a lot with his set pieces. We saw how effective he was Saturday with a home crowd behind him, and a busy home crowd as well. If we create some dangerous chances from corners, free kicks, things like that, it's going to get the crowd up, which I think we want to be doing. And Coventry stays in for me. So yeah, I'd stick with probably the same shape midfield, but I'd probably take Campbell out and Anderson out, and I'd bring Doc back in and start Luke Berry. I just think that it brings a little bit more, a few different flavours, if you like, to that midfield to try and get us some chances moving forward. And then, up front is a completely different argument, isn't it? Because I'd be very surprised if Miles was fit to start after the minutes he got Saturday and the minutes he played on Tuesday.
Yeah, we just don't know. Rustos says Anderson and Campbell have to be benched. Martin saying Zach Mitchell might be getting close to the squad, maybe. We'll see. Shiny Phil says he thought Anderson was awful on Tuesday. Coventry's passing was horrible as well. Berry and Doherty, and just with Bez and Doc, I just feel like a little bit we're going around in circles trying to find that right midfield balance. And Berry's got his goals and Doherty's had a couple of moments here and there, but it's just that consistency. And I just feel like we're moving a few little pieces there to try and find that consistency, and we haven't found it with any of these players yet. So it's a tough one. It's certainly a tough one for Nathan Jones, but we'll find out what he does on Saturday, an hour before kickoff, when we get the team news. Right, just to give you guys some information, a little giveaway we'll be doing on our Twitter in about 15 seconds or so. We've teamed up with Mazzala Designs again. You may remember this. We did this a little while ago to give away one of their prints, like a Mendonca print or a Bauer print. They do these excellent prints that they do. It's one of those will be on our Twitter in the next few seconds, where you can retweet and follow and tag a mate. And if you're lucky, you might win the free picture. So check that out in the next few seconds. And hopefully one of you guys will win that. I remember the guy who won it last time got delivered really quickly and was really pleased with what he got, which was a Dobbo against Ipswich one, which was really nice. Right, we've run out of time on this week's big match preview. Massive thanks to everyone who's joined us live in the chat, to Andy as well from the Fearless in Devotion pod, who joined us to tell us all about Wrexham. Sue and Lewis, been an absolute pleasure as always.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
Lovely stuff. I'm Louis Mendes. This has been Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. Don't forget, we'll be back on Sunday morning to look back at the game against Wrexham. We shall see you then.